Right now, on to the point, as thousands of Californians struggle to afford homeowners insurance.
Will the Department of Insurance turn into a rubber stamp for the insurance industry?
The new plan lawmakers are considering to stabilize the market. The fate of former President Donald Trump now in the hands of a jury. What he could be convicted of, plus why a California lawmaker wants to ban plastic shopping bags. And later, as we celebrate our Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander communities, how Yumian families grew Sacramento strawberry farms. Thanks so much for joining us tonight on To The Point. I'm Alex Bell. Hundreds of thousands of Californians are struggling to find affordable homeowners insurance. And today, we're learning more about one step the governor is taking to help address that. As we have been reporting for years now, most major insurers have paused or limited business in our state. They cite rising wildfire risk, increased cost of rebuilding, and what they consider burdensome regulations. Tonight, ABC 10's Becca Habegger shows us what state lawmakers will now consider.
We need to stabilize this market. We need to send the right signals. We need to move. We need to move.
At a news conference unveiling revisions to his budget proposal earlier this month, Governor Gavin Newsom announced plans for a bill he said would help lead to more affordable and available insurance for homeowners.
I can't impress upon them more the urgency that we share.
One of the reasons why homeowners insurance companies have been pausing or limiting business in California is the sluggish rate approval process. Under Proposition 103, which voters passed in 1988, insurance companies are required to get state approval before raising their rates, and the public can intervene in that process if they feel the increase a company is requesting is too high. The rate approval process can take months, even more than a year. Insurance companies say their rates can't keep pace with rising costs.
We need to get this rate ruling process done, and that's why we want to expedite it over a 60-day period.
The exact language of Newsom's proposal came out on Tuesday. It would require the California Department of Insurance to complete a company's rate request within 60 days, with possible extensions if needed.
Will we continue to make insurance companies be transparent and make them justify what they want to charge? Or will the Department of Insurance turn into a rubber stamp for the insurance industry, getting whatever rate increases they want? And that's where this proposal is heading.
Carmen Balber is executive director of Consumer Watchdog, which is the group most often intervening in the rate approval process, objecting when they feel insurance companies are asking for too high of an increase. She says Newsom's proposal would limit the ability of the public to object to a rate request and worries it could lead to higher rates for California homeowners.
This bill targets directly the public participation process that has saved homeowners more than $2 billion in the last 20 years in excessive rate increases.
The American Property Casualty Insurance Association, the primary national trade association for home, auto, and business insurers, tells ABC 10 in part, streamlining the rate review process will help increase consumer access to coverage by ensuring rates adequately reflect risk and consumer claims, especially in the wake of rapidly changing conditions. Streamlining approvals is key to modernizing our regulatory system and fixing the California insurance crisis. In Sacramento, Becca Habegger, ABC 10 News.
We asked the governor's office what's next for this proposed bill, and a spokesperson says that we intend to work with the legislature on this policy, which will determine how and when it would be enacted. Now, we know there are a lot of moving parts when it comes to California's insurance crisis, so if you are looking for more information, make sure you head to our website, abc10.com/links. All right, a bill limiting parental notification policies in California schools has advanced in the state. Senate lawmakers and Senate Education Committee approved AB 1955, also known as the Safety Act. If passed and signed into law, the bill would prohibit school districts across the state from setting policies requiring parents to be notified if their child changes their name or gender at school. The bill comes after several school districts across the state began implementing policies and were faced with backlash and even lawsuits from state leaders. The bill now heads to the Senate Appropriations Committee. Meanwhile, a proposed measure to create a statewide gender identity measure failed to qualify for the November ballot. The measure would have required schools to notify parents if their child asked to change their gender identification, as well as ban transgender girls in grades 7 through college in women's sports. The initiative did not receive enough signatures. And developing in Stockton tonight, investigators are looking into what sparked a fire that spread to multiple homes. It started around 1 this afternoon off Stanford Avenue. Stockton Fire says the call came in as a grass fire, then spread to 2 homes and came close to 2 others. Thankfully, no one was hurt. And new tonight, a man taken to the hospital after the Meadowview shooting on Monday night is now a potential suspect. The Sacramento Police Department says 23-year-old Giovanni Head was booked on assault-related charges today. It's unclear if these charges are directly related to the shooting. It happened around 8 p.m. on Monday at an apartment complex in the area of Meadowview Road and Coral Gables Court. 5 people, including Giovanni Head, were shot. Just into the newsroom tonight, a San Mateo judge has denied almost all of the requests for additional DNA testing in the case of Scott Peterson. Peterson, who is currently serving a life sentence, is accused of killing his wife, Lacey Peterson, back in 2002, who was pregnant with their unborn son. The LA Innocence Project, which took up Peterson's case last year, requested 14 items to be tested or retested for DNA. The judge accepted one request for the duct tape recovered from pants of Lacey Peterson. Another hearing will be held on July 15th. Opening statements began today in the state trial against Paul Pelosi's attacker, David DePape. The charges relate to the 2022 break-in and attack at the Pelosi San Francisco residence. DePape is charged with attempted murder, assault with a deadly weapon, residential burglary, elder abuse, false imprisonment, and threatening the life or serious bodily harm to a public official. He has pleaded not guilty. If convicted, he faces 13 years to life in prison, in addition to his recent federal case where he was sentenced to 30 years in federal prison. In Trump's criminal hush money case, the jury will reconvene tomorrow to discuss 34 charges against the former president for falsifying business records to cover up a conspiracy before the 2016 election. Here's what happened in court today.
The fate of former President Donald Trump is now in the hands of 12 New Yorkers. The jury deliberating behind closed doors after 5 weeks of testimony from more than 20 witnesses and a marathon day of closing arguments on Tuesday. The jury is weighing whether to convict or acquit Trump on 34 felony counts of falsifying business records in the hush money payment to adult film actress Stormy Daniels before the 2016 election. The jury is made up of 7 men and 5 women, 2 of them native New Yorkers and 2 immigrants. More than half have advanced degrees, consisting of a speech therapist, teacher, lawyers, and bankers. Jurors sending a note this afternoon asking to hear back 4 portions of testimony. They also asked to rehear the judge's instructions. Prosecutors urged the jury to hold Trump accountable, arguing he ordered his former attorney, Michael Cohen, to pay Daniels for her silence about her alleged sexual encounter with him to hide that from voters. They say when Trump reimbursed Cohen, he purposely disguised it as a legal expense. The judge told jurors they can't convict Trump on Cohen's testimony alone unless his testimony is corroborated with evidence, being that he's an accomplice to the alleged crime.
I think the biggest point that the jury's gonna have to discuss is the question of corroboration. You have Michael Cohen laying out being the tour guide, so to speak, as the prosecution paints him now in closing arguments. And I think you have to ask the question is what he said corroborated by other witnesses?
Trump's defense attorneys say he did nothing wrong. Trump pleaded not guilty and has denied any sexual encounter with Daniels.
Mother Teresa could not beat those charges, but we'll see. We'll see how we do. It's a very disgraceful situation.
Still ahead on To the Point, why a California lawmaker wants to ban all plastic shopping bags in all stores.
We are tracking moderate to high excessive heat risk for next week.
And later, strawberry farm history, how Yumian families grew a network of strawberry farming right here in Sacramento.
Yumian Strawberry Farms is a cultural phenomenon in Sacramento. It's part of our identity as Yumian Americans, and I think it's part of our identity as Sacramentans.
All right. Sorry. something way before the break. Let's get to Chief Meteorologist Monica Woods with a look at our forecast. What we were just talking about, warmer weather right around the corner.
I know. Alex said, what are we going to talk about? It's windy, it's warmer, and, you know, we got everything to consider at this point in the season. Also, that elevated fire risk. Now, you can see what's happening here. Temperature trend is starting to warm above our average. We've been right about average for the past couple of days, which is 84 degrees. Today, jumping above that, and now the real heat is on. We still have a couple of hours to enjoy a rather seasonable evening. Temperatures will fall into the 70s by 9 p.m., eventually getting into the 60s by early tomorrow. But we're going to stick with these northwest winds, which are currently at about 15 miles per hour. These are dry, warmer winds, and it elevates the fire danger for our Thursday. Friday, moderate heat risk and a little bit worse air quality. The weekend, we're a little cooler, still above average, but the big heat still on the way. Tomorrow, we have the elevated risk of fire potential through the Central Valley, moderate risk of rapid fire spread due to those dry, gusty winds and the low humidity. Again, we stick with those northwest winds for tonight and early tomorrow, and then we're going to start to see those taper off. But unfortunately, the stage is set. We already have the low humidity, the higher heat, and so that's going to continue to bring us a slight risk of that fire potential. High pressure ridge builds in for our Thursday and Friday forecast, bringing our first taste of heat for the extended forecast, but much bigger heat to deal with next week, as we could see our first 100s throughout the valley. Highs in the 70s for the Sierra tomorrow, 80s and 90s for the foothills, with highs in the 70s across the coast. Widespread 90s tomorrow for that Thursday forecast in the valley, with our biggest temperature increase for Friday throughout the region, before seeing just a little bit of cooling for the weekend forecast. But the heat is on next week, highs in the 90s and 100s.
Next, on To the Point, why a California lawmaker wants to ban all plastic shopping bags from all stores. Plus, a section of downtown Sacramento and I-5 could see some major changes, what officials want to add to the area. Welcome back. An effort to ban the use of all plastic bags in grocery stores in California is moving forward. It would strengthen an existing ban that first took effect 10 years ago. Lena Howland explains the change and why environmentalists say it's long overdue.
Nearly a decade has passed since California made history as the first state in the country to ban single-use plastic bags.
We just know that the law is not working.
Jen Engstrom, state director of the California Public Interest Research Group, worked on the original plastic bag ban. She says while plastic waste did go down for a while, the pandemic changed everything.
I mean, that's when we really saw these thicker plastic bags show up in large numbers.
A loophole in the law allowed grocery stores to continue selling thicker plastic bags considered to be reusable for at least 125 times.
The reality is people are not really reusing them, so they're ending up as trash.
According to data from Cal Recycle, the amount of plastic bags discarded per person increased. It reached an all-time high in 2021, with more than 230,000 tons thrown away statewide. Assemblymember Rebecca Bauer-Cahan of Orinda is working on one of the two identical bills aiming to change that.
We are moving to 100% paper bags in grocery stores in 2026.
She was inspired to ban the use of these thicker reusable bags in grocery stores by her teenage son.
We have our grocery store right on the creek, and he started to notice that in our nature areas, the trash and the bags from our grocery store were ending up in our waterways, and we could see it.
Though the companies that make these plastic bags oppose this. The American Recyclable Plastic Bag Alliance says bans force stores and shoppers to switch to other products that are more expensive. With food prices continuing to climb from near record inflation, these increased costs will be passed along to consumers in the form of higher prices.
And if past shoppers will still have a paper option, but it will also cost about a dime, and they'll have to be made out of mostly recycled material. And a section of downtown Sacramento could soon see some major changes. Right now, the historic waterfront and downtown are separated by I-5. But now, Congresswoman Doris Matsui is seeking $5 million from the federal government to cover the section of interstate near the Tower Bridge with a park. Scott Ford and the Downtown Sacramento Partnership support the idea, comparing it to the Clyde Warren Elevated Park in Dallas, built over 3 blocks of freeway.
It's been so successful, it's generated so much new tax revenue to that area that they're now looking at a 2-block expansion of that park.
The grand vision of the project in Sacramento is to reclaim more than 4 acres of park space for outdoor classes, concerts, art, among other uses. And Congresswoman Matsui's $5 million request is just a first step. This May, we continue to celebrate Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. And tonight, we're sharing the story behind some of Sacramento's strawberry farms. Right now, there are over 100 strawberry farms in Sacramento. But what you may not know is many of them are run by Yumian families. It's a story of survival, strawberry farming, and succession.
Behind every strawberry, there's a story. The snap of the vine is just the beginning. For Chun Se Lee, the owner of Lee's Berries in Sacramento, life wasn't always this sweet.
The security of all Southeast Asia will be endangered.
At 10 years old, Chan and her family fled Laos during the Laotian Civil War and lived in refugee camps in Thailand. Thousands of Yumian people helped the U.S. in Southeast conflicts fighting communism. Sensei Turn, a writer who's preserving the stories of his community, says this story is a familiar story for many Yumian families, including his own. Because of their migration and political involvement, Yumian Americans also identify as Southeast Asian.
Yumian people are indigenous Chinese people who have always lived off the land and fled conflict. So they migrated to Southeast Asia, where they were caught in the crossfire of the Vietnam War.
After being granted refuge in the United States,
there are 30,000 of us here, with 15,000 being in the Sacramento area.
Chan and her family came to Sacramento more than 30 years ago. With no education and children to feed, she worried about finding work. But there was one thing she did know. And so she did. Learning a trade passed on from Japanese Americans to Hmong immigrants to Yumian people.
Yumian strawberry farms is a cultural phenomenon in Sacramento. It's part of our identity as Yumian Americans, and I think it's part of our identity as Sacramentans.
A story of survival that grew.
There are about 100 strawberry farms run by Yumian people. Most of this was through word of mouth. Our parents pretty much calling each other like, hey, this is how you can make a living.
After years of working on other family strawberry fields, the family finally saved up enough money to lease their own land. Even their last names tell a story.
This place is called Lee's Strawberries, short for Say Lee.
Say is a prefix found in Yumian last names.
When we went through the refugee camps in Thailand, the way they processed us, they affixed the Thai word Say, which means clan. So the direct translation is clan name.
And Lee is one of 12 Yumian clan names. The Say Lee family turned this barren land into the lush field it is today. On Florin Perkins Road, customers are rolling in.
Hi.
Some with their own strawberry stories.
When I was young, I used to help my grandparents at their strawberry stand, and this is the closest thing that I can get to that. So we come here every week. I just think it's important that my kids and my family knows where their food comes from.
Sen also standing on familiar ground.
I have become a strawberry snob.
And earned right.
I could definitely taste when it's out of season, when it's not ripe enough.
When you farm them yourself.
Well, I think strawberry farms is kind of a part of my identity, that I grew up with it.
As time changes, so does the strawberry story of the Yumian people.
It's a dying legacy that's facing a succession crisis. So most of the farms are run by first-generation immigrants, and they're aging out.
Younger generations are planting their own roots.
Honestly, it's hard work, and they have more opportunities here, especially with education. There's no language barrier for them, so they can move beyond just being a farmer, and I think that's what their parents want from them.
A seed planted for future generations. A strawberry and a story worth sharing.
Jen says that she cannot wait to retire in 2 years. She's really looking forward to taking care of her grandkids and, of course, relaxing. So if you want to check out and support Yumi and Strawberry Farms, make sure you head to our website, abc10.com/links, to find all the stands around town. And we're back after this break with what we're working on for tomorrow. Last week, we told you all California inmates serving a death sentence would be moved off death row by the end of this summer. Now we're hearing from more victims' families, including a Vacaville woman who says her mother's killer has been moved to the same facility where her son is currently serving time. Back in 1986, Angela Wombley and her 1.5-year-old son survived a deadly shooting in their Richmond home. Her mother was shot and killed right in front of them. Willie Darnell Johnson was convicted and placed on death row for the crime. And with the push to move all death row inmates, Johnson was recently transferred to the California Medical Facility in Vacaville, where Wombley's son, who is now 39, is serving time. We are in touch with the CDCR, prosecutors, and the governor's office about her concerns. We'll have their responses coming up tomorrow night right here on To The Point at 6:30. Thanks for watching and inviting us into your home. Have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow. Hey, it's Alex. I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching. The To The Point team and I love hearing from you, and I hope that you'll stay in touch. And don't forget, you can always email me and the team at tothepoint@abc10.com, or you can even send us a text message at 916-321-3310.